Welcome to Chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. As you guys know, we have the champion Showdown, Chess9LX, also known as Chess960, and Fisher Random Chess. It was created by Bobby Fischer back in 1996. As kind of a variant because, he said chess was a memorization and played out. So something brand new. And so in round 6, we have the current world Chess960 champion, Wesley versus the legendary Garry Kasparov. You guys know Garry Kasparov, man. He's been around the game for a minute. I'm 36 years old. Born in 1986. I'm like 1,000 years old to some people. Yeah, Gary's been around the game for much longer than I've been alive. So he's been in the game for a minute, I would say. So, yes, of course, all my people that are coming from the Philippines, I would say mabuhay to you. Kamusta na aking mga kaibigan. Let me see. Masaya kong kinikang muli. Hello, ulit. I appreciate you guys very much. Maraming salamat aking mga kaibigan. Pausa na nunuwod. Appreciate you guys very much, as always. Anybody, I'm going to go ahead and address everybody from every little where. So, currently, Garry Kasparov, he does represent Croatia. So I'll say Zdravo, Kako si, Mori Pieteli. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. Anybody who is coming from Russia, I will say Privyet, Kakdela, Spasibo for coming by and taking a look at my video. And Garry Kasparov was born in Baku, Azerbaijan. So I would speak a little Azerbaijani. So I'll say Salam and Chaksago if you are Azerbaijani. I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by. And as always, as you guys know, you can skip this complete entire intro. It's at the very top of my description if you don't want to hear nothing I gotta say. But anyways, if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look at what we have for this game. So we got the move E4, and we have the novelty of the game. No, I'm playing. You guys know with Chess960, because the pieces are messed all the way up in 960 different positions, and this is actually position 852. For those of you out there that want to know the position, I will be putting it in the description. Number 852. Anyways, yes, the pieces are in all different kinds of positions. So, technically, we've seen this position before. So, we most likely have seen the move E4 coming up. So, maybe at some point they will start to have a database with Chess960 positions, and you can see like what novelty of the games there are. But we don't currently have that as far as I know. Anyways, we do have the move E5. Now, something I do want to say. When you are playing Chess960, there's a few things that you kind of come to understand. Now, of course, controlling the center in any chess game is always going to be in the forefront of your mind. But something else that you want to think about is when you have a first move in this particular situation where you have the pieces jumbled up in different scenarios, you want to kind of try to see what is going to give you the most bang for your buck out of like the initial move. So of course, if you're looking at it, the move E4 is super duper logical because, number one, it is a completely, it is a completely protected pawn when you do push it the 2 squares. So you don't really too much want to just push pawns that are not protected 2 squares because then you'll have to protect them. Also, what you get as well is this, come on, man, what is my mouse doing, bro? You get this bishop out. So, you have the ability to develop this bishop somewhere. So there is an argument for another move, and that is the move B3. This also achieves what I'm talking about. It is a protected pawn push. A little bit better to go B3 than to go the move B4. You are kind of moving a pawn on the side of the board, but you do see that you get your queen out as well. So, you kind of have something similar. So, when you have an opening in Chess960, it's normally, I'd say probably 95% of the time, a really good idea to push a pawn in front of a rook 2 spaces, especially if it gives you mobility with some bishops or a queen or something like that. So just kind of just like jumping off the situation. So basically black and white do the same thing. We got the move F3. Because you are thinking of trying to get, your pieces out. And that is one of the interesting things about Chess960 that's a little bit different because, normally when you're playing a regular chess game, it's really, really easy to get your pieces out. You pretty much move like D4, E4, knight to F3, knight, stuff like that. And you're pretty much getting the castle really quickly. But as you guys see with this one, it's a little bit different. You kind of have to have a little bit of finesse. But as you can see, what white has done so far is they've moved their bishops. They've given their bishops move to Rome. They've given their pawn support, and they are ready to play knight to g3 at some point coming in the near future. So we do have the move f6, and knight comes to g3. And like I said before, you know, white has pretty much achieved a lot of what they want. You know, black and white are kind of doing similar things right now. You know, they both have their bishops, you know, out in this situation. You know, they're just doing pretty good. So we do have the move c5. We got the move c3. You know, it's kind of like a little bit of luft for the king. I mean, you never know when you might need to kind of run the king. Like I said, it's a little bit tougher in this particular, you know, chess960 to get castled very, very quickly. So sometimes you kind of need a little bit of space for your king. So we do see the move b5. We got d4. Pawn takes d4, pawn takes d4, and then we do have the move c4. And, you know, even though, like I say before, you know, controlling the center is very important, because of the particular placement of the pieces, it's a little bit different. And so, you know, this isn't like too horrible of a scenario to have these pawns, you know, kind of sitting on these squares right here. But we do try to break down the seeming center with the move b3. Plus, it allows our queen to get out. So we do have the move d5. We got queen up to c3. And like I said, it's always kind of tough to try to castle in these chess960 games. Sometimes the pieces are set up to where you can rapidly develop and get castled. But sometimes you got to start kind of moving other pieces. The only unfortunate thing about this particular move, especially Garry Kasparov recognizes what's going on. He has the ability to threaten Wesley. And he does that with this move a5. And as you guys can probably see, once this bishop kind of comes out and develops, you're going to kind of have an issue as far as where you're placed your queen. Now, I mean, there can be a little bit of an argument as far as queen goes to b2 is concerned. And it's just, I mean, it's a little bit better. It's definitely not like the best absolute move. But, you know, it does kind of sidestep this bishop to b4 situation. You know, because, you know, this bishop is going to be coming and trying to mess up this rook. And that's kind of what you see in the game. So backing up, like I said, queen to c3, we see a5. We do not want that bishop to b4 to be coming. So we do back up to c2. So as you can see, you know, white has kind of had to waste a little bit of tempo to kind of get out of the way. So we do see the move bishop to b4. And then we see rook to e3. And like I said, I mean, with 960, you kind of get these weird piece configurations. Like, I mean, you're not necessarily wanting to do a rook lift right here. And now you have just damaged your chances of castling as far as on this side is concerned. You still can castle on this side, but position is kind of open over here. So you still, you know, you still hold to a lot of, you know, chess understanding as far as like what you should and shouldn't do in certain positions. We do see the move knight to b6, pawn takes c4, knight takes c4, bishop takes c4, pawn takes c4. And I mean, you can see that, you know, white is kind of breathing a little bit, you know, better now. You know, they got rid of this bishop that's back here. So, I mean, you know, they kind of got their pieces out just a little bit more. And then we do see the move a4, which is a really nice move earlier in the game. Just kind of trying to open the queen up. And then we do see knight to g6 and then knight to f5. You know, why not attack a pawn? You know, there's a pawn over here that can be attacked. You know, of course, knight to g3 isn't like the most normal like position for a knight to be on. And it's really kind of hard to protect without just completely moving all the way back and giving a pawn away. So we do see the move knight to f4. You say, hey, man, I might as well counterattack you. We do see the pawn taking b5, rook taking b5, and queen to a4 because maybe black, maybe Garry Kasparov is going to forget that his rook is hanging, but he's not. So we see rook back to b8, and then the knight does take g7. The rook goes to e7, knight goes back to f5, and then the rook goes over to d7. And we kind of have a little bit of a special situation right here because kind of where do you put this rook, you know? You know, you want to protect this pawn. You know, you want to kind of maybe possibly push it, but that's probably not the best thing for you to be doing. So we do see the move rook to a3, which might look kind of strange because you're like, I mean, I'm just putting my rook like where it could just get taken. Like, I should have probably put it somewhere else, right? Well, you actually see bishop taking a3 and then queen taking a3. And like I said, it might look kind of strange to you. So I give you an opportunity here in this position. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and see what move you should play in this position, go ahead and do so. There's only one move. Okay, cool. So it's kind of like a trick situation that I produced with this particular situation because I think a lot of you guys notice that this rook is completely hanging, right? So that's not the move. If you guess the move, Rook takes b1, thinking, hey man, you know what, I got me a rook, I'm good to go. You see the bar goes way crazy, right? Well, the problem is you have now just hung your queen. So noticing that you saw, you know, the undefended piece is one thing, but, you know, you need to kind of calculate a little bit more to see, like, what might be the problem with taking this undefended piece. And the move queen to f8 check is the, is what you would have had to have seen if you did go into this variation. After the king goes to c7, you do see queen taking a8. And no, my queen, right? Yeah. So this was something kind of like a little small trap that Wesley was kind of setting. And of course, you know, Garry Kasparov being the gangster he is, he did not go for that. After the queen took a3, we did see him go knight up to e6, which kind of seems like, hey man, it's protecting the situation. You know, the rook is still hanging and stuff like that, but this wasn't the absolute best way to go about it. After we do see the move queen takes a3, this was a move that I was looking for. You have to go king to e8. This is the only move in the position to basically hold everything. You want this knight to still be on this square and still have the ability to kind of get into white's position. You don't really want to retreat it back. Not only is it not as influential back here, but you know, you're blocking this bishop as well. So you're kind of like undeveloping and not quite doing really what you need. And then the rook would go to a1. So this is a much better situation. You are going to be pretty much losing this pawn no matter what. So you might as well kind of give it back this way. But like I said, the king has to go over to prevent this queen from going here. You don't want to lose your queen, bro. But like I said, the queen took a3. We did see the knight back to e6. And Wesley is definitely recognizing in this position that he can get some stuff done. So he does go rook to a1. And then we do see rook to b5. Really trying to hold on to that pawn. But the situation is starting to get kind of dire at this point. And this does allow white to start to become a little bit more active. So we do see the king going to c2. And then we do see the move c3, which is starting to kind of try to set a trap for white. And it basically just comes, you know, becomes determined if Wesley is going to notice this. But the first thing he does is, you know, even though this bishop is kind of back here on this back rank, and this knight is back here on this back rank, which might kind of seem like they're both really similar as far as like being poor on the rim. You know, if you do push d5 at some point, this bishop gets completely opened up. But something that you want to be paying attention to is this knight here. It's not really doing anything on this back rank. So the first thing Wesley does is move his knight up to d3. And we have another point in the game that if you do want to pause the video, now this is not the best move in the position. It's actually not a great move at all. But it is a very interesting move that I thought would be kind of interesting to see if, you know, anybody would guess the move that Garry Kasparov played in this position and kind of what was the idea behind it. So if you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to guess that move, go ahead. All right, cool. So, I mean, there's a very logical tactic behind the situation, but I mean, you really would kind of have to be like pretty low rated or like maybe intermediate rated to like fall for this. And it's a little bit obvious like when you kind of see it. The move that Garry Kasparov plays in this position, if you guessed it, congratulations. You wouldn't be right, but you would be right as far as what he played in the game. The move is rook to b3. Now, Garry Kasparov, he's a little bit low on time at this point. So, you know, the problem is he's not able to calculate, very far. And he probably, I think he has like 15 seconds or something at this point. So he's like pretty much kind of playing on impulse. So rook to b3, it makes some kind of sense, but like I said, it's like really not the move that needs to be in the position. And so of course, you know, Garry Kasparov is thinking you absolutely cannot take this rook, because if you do take the rook with the queen, you would be looking at knight takes d4 with check. And the problem is this is a check, but it's also a discovery on the queen. You guys saw me mention earlier that this bishop was kind of like back. Right now you have a fork between the king and the queen, which naturally you want to just like, you know, like maybe take the knight, right? But the problem is this bishop is on this queen also. So you're absolutely losing the queen. So of course Wesley is not going into that. So he just goes straight into the winning variation. Queen takes a5 with check, queen takes a5, rook takes a5, and he is just pretty much a-okay. You kind of want to stay away from this rook being able to check right here because this bishop is kind of lonely. So what, you know, and like I said, you know, Garry Kasparov is very, very low on time. Like, he has less than 15 seconds at this point. So he's not making like the absolute best moves because he's not able to really calculate very far. So as you guys probably can see the problem with this particular move. You kind of had to play something, but this one just allows a nice little fork up between these two rooks, and that is the move knight to c5. And we are basically going to be evening up the material that Wesley So gave a little bit earlier with the exchange. So the rook does come to b2 a check. Pretty much the only thing you can do. The king takes c3, rook takes g2, knight takes d7, king takes d7, bishop goes to e3. You know, you're going to protect that bishop. The rook does take h2. So it might kind of seem like, hey, man, you know, like, you know, black's not doing too bad. Like, I mean, it looks kind of even, you know what I'm saying? You're just kind of down a pawn. Everything is everything. But the major issue in the position is the fact that you do have this really, really nice passed pawn right here. And so we do see the move knight to h6 first, attacking that undefended bishop. We got the rook over to a2. So this is like a really nice kind of way for him to protect that bishop because now your rook is hanging. So we go rook takes a2, bishop takes a2, and we got the move d5. We got knight down to b5 with check. The king goes down to d2. Knight goes to d6 and bishop goes to c5. And I mean, we would really like to start getting rid of your minor pieces so that way we can just have a winning pawn and king endgame. This king can actually come up this way. If we can get rid of this knight and get rid of the bishop, then we do have the ability to kind of start getting up in this direction. Because this is a light squared bishop, it is a situation where the king can actually safely, you know, kind of go this way. Or if he wants to kind of go this way and start to get up to this pawn, it's going to be a very defensive position for black. So we do see the move f5. We got bishop taking d6. And then the very interesting thing is Garry does not take this bishop on d6. It is actually way more suggested to take this pawn on e4. And then after the bishop retreats, bishop takes d5. And it might kind of seem like black is doing a little something, even though they're down a piece. We got the move f4. The king goes to e6. The bishop goes up to h4. The bishop goes to c6, and then the king goes to e3. And it is in this position that Garry not only laughs, but he resigns the game. And like I said before, you just have way too much firepower as white. You got extra pieces. You know, this pawn is not going anywhere. This king is very mobile. This bishop is controlling the queening square for this particular pawn. And this bishop cannot influence that queening square. So that means that this king is much more free to move. And it probably can come all the way over here and start to collect pieces. And you don't have to worry about this king blockading this pawn because, like I said, this bishop is always, whether it's from here, or it's from like way over here, can always make sure that it holds this queening square. And so you're not really able to force this pawn into promotion. Maybe if black had a dark squared bishop, then it would be a different story. You'd have to give, you know, white would have to give up their bishop in exchange, but that is not the situation. So you could possibly see something, you know, like, let's say the king comes down here. Like I said, I mean, you're going to be able to, you know, basically get in a position where your king is able to start to attack this pawn way over here. And you are just, it's a done deal. Because if you have to, if black has to give up their only remaining piece to defend a pawn, then, I mean, you pretty much just have a piece and a pawn. Make sure you don't lose this bad boy. So that is that game. And like I said, at the end of the game, Wesley and Garry, they kind of laughed a little bit because, I mean, Gary's seeing that it's not really possible to win. Even if Garry had made Wesley give up his last remaining pawn, you actually can checkmate with the bishop and a knight. It's like literally the hardest checkmate in the history of the game, but it is possible. So for all my people in the Philippines, maraming salamat aking mga kaibigan. Let me see. I don't know how to say thank you in Croatian. So spasibo, chaksago. I appreciate it very much, and I'll see you guys next time.